all started with an idea, a clear vision of what would be. And it rapidly took shape, growing into powerful conversations with specialists and professionals all around the world. The mission is an unwavering commitment to discovering solutions and to sharing them. And through our education, we will unite and grow strong together. You're here because you see that vision and you believe. You're here because you are the Reality Capture Network. Welcome to RCN 2022.
I think I've talked enough about why it was started. Again, starting with the podcast, the conversations. I do want to give one thing that's changing in the podcast, not changing completely, but something that is being added. And I talked about it a little bit in the beginning. I asked the question and the hand raise of who knows who Gary Vee is? And I'll ask again so I could see. Who knows who Gary Vee is? Okay. So part of why I started the podcast is because of following people like Gary Vee. And the majority of the people in this room did not raise their hand. There was 10 people. And as I started doing interviews with people in our industry and watching interviews with Gary Vee, and I started following other people like Lewis Howes and Grant Cardone and all these people in other industries that were utilizing social media and were utilizing educating their industry and growing massive communities and seeing how that was able to work for them in a way that was able to change their industry and build community and educate. And so as I was interviewing people in our industry, I started getting in contact with other guests that had nothing to do with construction or laser scanning. I started getting in touch with people like them. So I had I'm not busy enough, so I started a second podcast and didn't tell anybody, and it was called Apex Mindset. And the reason is, at first I felt like I don't want to dilute our podcast with conversations that don't have to do with the technologies. And as I move forward, I kind of realized that was not the right approach. So I've decided to bring those episodes into RCN because they were interviews with people like Matt Higgins from Shark Tank. So the main focus of the podcast is our technology. It is our industry. That's what I'm passionate about. And so we have our guests, some of our recent ones, Josh with DPR, Matt with Structure Insight, Ryan with Kimley Horn. But I'm also talking with other people in other industries, like Ryan DeLuca. He's actually going to be presenting here tomorrow. He was the founder of bodybuilding.com. He's local to Boise. He grew an educational platform from an idea of educating to a $500 million a year business and exited that and now has started a virtual reality fitness company. And he's going to come present to talk and the reason I brought him is I like the idea of inspiration and how other people are building successful businesses and bringing that into our industry, but also seeing how someone's taking something like virtual reality and using the gaming engines to mix into an industry in a way that's innovative that no one's done before. He's going to be coming and presenting tomorrow. I had Matt Higgins from Shark Tank, another guy that's very successful. He was actually one of the first investors into Gary Vee, for those of you who do know him. He met Gary in a bagel shop. And he talked to him and he was like, man, this guy's crazy, but I think he knows what he's talking about. Gary Vee was very early into social media, creating a YouTube channel. His father owned a wine business, and I think I'm going to be off on numbers, but they were doing something like maybe $5 million of sales in wine. When Gary Vee started his YouTube channel and started doing wine tasting as a blog, and started building this following, he scaled that business from $5 million to a $60 million wine business. The power of being able to use these tools that exist outside of our cool technology, but things like social media, things like filming some of the content that we're doing in our industry. We're talking about how do we educate and get people interested in land surveying and in running a scanner or coming into construction. I think it's talking about things like this. It's filming it. It's making it creative, and it's sharing it out to the world. That's my goal. The other guest on the bottom of there is Jesse Itzler. He was one of my first guests on that version of the podcast. He's married to Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, one of the richest women in the world. He has founded multiple businesses. He built a jet company in his 20s with a partner. They knew nothing about jets. But his approach to how he starts businesses, his idea behind them, he sees the end goal, he follows that route. I actually want to play a video real quick that's just going to show a few snippets out of some of the conversations with those people, just to give you an idea of why I'm going to integrate that.
Scanning companies come from across the country to scan a project down the street from us.
This is actually RCN one. We'll do both.
It's always been the post-processing part. So you got the data, now what are you going to do with it?
I developed the digital building lifecycle as the new business model for the AECO industry.
There's a pressure point there that we can make a difference with reality capture.
The end users or the end clients aren't prepared to handle any of the points.
We didn't have all the equipment in place. We were flying by the seat of our pants.
There's going to be that day where we're moving a petabyte of reality capture data.
Being able to use technology and software and programs that are helpful to teams is important.
And those pain points are universal.
We also partner with contractors. A lot of times they'll have the technology that we need to really understand.
But, there is a greater community that we have, professionals and entrepreneurs that we can partner with when our opportunity comes up and get the work done.
You need to be close, you need to be on standby, because as soon as they're done filming this shot, they're gonna say, all right, LiDAR scan, go. And you got like 3 minutes to get in there and scan everything, get off.
How do you reduce the latency between the pilot and the drone so that by the time the pilot knows I need to turn, it hasn't crashed into a wall?
A digital transition within your company is one thing. A digital transition within the community and or the end user is a whole different game.
Get their mindset focused into like this next step, next gen, innovative mindset.
Reason there's a LiDAR sensor in the iPhone. They didn't put it in there for AEC professionals to go scan buildings.
These pit tag antennas that are marking or resighting all of these marked animals.
It's much more powerful than just the raw 3D geometry.
Drones and laser scanning, there's an application for landscape architecture.
Without a doubt.
And we can help support the field work, and now we can just all get projects done faster.
This next one is the Apex video that shows some of those interviews, and you'll see we're not talking about scanners in them. It's a little different.
Can I envision myself going through the finish line? Can I envision myself building a company where there's customers, or ultimately I sell the company? The end of the movie's done, the script might change and the plot might change, but that, I don't negotiate that goal.
Companies are realizing creativity is the thing that's going to help them to innovate and to differentiate themselves from their competitors.
My goal in that morning was to go a pace, and I knew that if I was able to get the pace, I was willing to go through the pain.
When people don't have context into what you're dealing with or what you're facing, and also what you see, very dangerous to outsource your intuition to another.
The way to have a good life is to work on something that you care about, you're passionate about, and the key is that it helps other people. It's got to be something at the end of the day, you worked hard, it was difficult, and then somebody says thank you.
And at some point, something shifted in my mind to realize, I can do more. I have more to give, finding a way to connect with people, finding value to give.
Take a step back from this identity that you've built up in your life and recognize you're more than that. You're bigger than that.
We live in a world where you can do anything if you're relentless in your pursuit for solutions.
It was that internal drive to go, if I want to be rich, I'm going to figure it out or I'm not going to be rich. There's no one who's going to quote unquote help me.
I don't have any experience or any answers, but I go to the end of the movie. Once I see that clearly in my mind, I kind of fill in the blanks.
Anybody find that inspirational or no? I do, which is why I like it. I like what Jesse Itzler said there of he didn't know anything about what he was getting into starting some of his businesses, but he saw a vision and he implemented. And I can't say, you know what, I can't start a podcast. I can't put on a conference. I see that need for it in the industry, and I said, you know what, we're going to do it. We're going to take one step at a time. I found a venue. Okay, now what? All right, well, I need to reach out to the industry folk and see if we can get some vendors and some sponsors so we can afford to put it on. That worked. Now we reach out to our community because we're building a network. We're building a community that's like-minded, so we get the people to come. Ultimately, it's taking that one step at a time. So we're going to be relaunching a new website, and those episodes that I've done are going to be integrated in there. So here in the next, I don't have a date, but probably in the next few weeks, that website will be launched. We'll send out an announcement about that, but you'll notice them. We're just going to label those ones that don't really have to do with our technologies, but are inspirational, are motivational, are going to be labeled as a special episode. But I think it's important, and the reason to merge it in is because we all have the same issues as well of how do we bring people into the industry? How do we motivate our teams? How do we attract talent? How do we keep talent? And so for me, it's the reason I did it is because of following people like this and getting inspired and seeing that a podcast work. Watching Grant Cardone fill a stadium to come talk about real estate investing. And I look at those people and I go, man, our industry is one of the most important industries. We're not entertaining people. We're not only investing and trying to make more money. We're literally building the world. We have to have the same level of commitment that these other industries do. So I'm excited to integrate those into the podcast, and you'll be seeing more of them. So one of the other things, and we talked about this over the last year, and putting on all this is a lot of work. And so there's certain ideas that we have and things we want to do that just take time. The Education Center on our website is something that I think is going to be critical to some of the things we're sitting here talking about. Where can we send a client to go get educated on why to use laser scanning in an architectural project? Or what tool to utilize if you're looking for a certain level of accuracy? My hope with the Education Center is that we can end up continuing to fill it with presentations, with panel conversations, but also get into actually creating technical videos, how-to videos. How do you integrate survey control into Ferrocene? Where should I put my survey control when I'm using the Navis VLX? What's your recommendation on links and no links in, Cyclone for your RTC? Those are questions that most of us that are doing it now have had to kind of just figure out on our own. And what I think that we can do to build the industry and help educate, and also I think it'll help solve some of the hiring issues. What if we as an industry created some courses where we could actually bring in some of our new hires, our interns, and say, hey, log into the Education Center and go through the week of courses that are outlined specifically for laser scanning in land surveying. And we had specific categories broken out for different industries, recommendations for the industrial piece. Again, this can go a lot of different directions, but that's the goal, is that we want to gather more education content from the community to have in one place. So we don't have to just go Google things. We can try to start somewhere. That's a goal, and we're going to be continuing to fill that. But we also want to get participation from the industry, because I don't have time to do it all myself, and I also don't have all the expertise. The industry has the expertise. My goal is to now use the platform that I've found a way to build through the brand, through the marketing, and I want to bring others on the journey with us. I want to highlight other people that are doing amazing things, so that overall, it is going to rise the whole industry. It's going to bring awareness to the industry, and it's going to help everyone. It's going to help everyone get more work, and we're going to do better work. One of the ways is, and again, this is more in idea format at the moment. It's not completely formalized on exactly how it would operate, but we want to actually create an application process for people who want to dedicate some time to helping us, helping RCN educate, becoming an RCN ambassador, where you help us create content, where you maybe help host a webinar, maybe you find some guests to bring in with you, maybe you help curate a certain panel for the conference. We want to open some opportunity to highlight others in the industry, and again, we're going to create opportunities for you through that, because of the visibility that you'll get as a company helping us grow our vision for those of you that do believe in it. Something else, I think this is still very topic level as well, and I've talked with a lot of people about it and had a lot of good feedback, is There is no license for laser scanning. There's no license for, okay, we could say there's a license for drone, but you can go get your Part 107 and then crash your drone immediately because you've never flown it before. That happens. We need more training opportunities and more, and I say, what about certifications? My idea with certifications, and again, I don't know, can we do this? Are we allowed to do this? Should we do this? I don't know its idea format, but what if we created some tiered certifications for people to know how much does this person know about laser scanning? Because right now it's really hard. You look at a resume or something, right? You say, hey, this guy's been scanning for 10 years. He knows how to do everything, right? And then you find out it's like, oh, he actually was kind of only doing a certain piece of this. And again, in survey, right, there's the LSIT, before there's an LS. There's stepping stones to say, how much does this person know? For me, I think the idea of creating some certifications, and maybe even in the beginning, maybe it's not all the way a certification like a license type of certification. Maybe it's just that, hey, let's create these 3-day boot camps where we come together and we dig into why is survey control important? How does it work? What's the difference between drone versus, photogrammetry versus LiDAR? In some way, I would love input from people on how can we create a process to train people properly and make sure that we're kind of educating on the same level. We're definitely going to keep the conference going, I think. Should we keep the conference going? Is anybody enjoying the conference? Okay. I hope so, because that's the plan right now. The other ideas we have, I've had a lot of people ask, are you always going to keep it in Boise? Because it's a long trip from the East Coast. This has been put on by a pretty minimal staff. There's a few of us. The reason we picked Boise is because last year we did it for the first time and we had no idea if anybody would show up. So we said, we're going to find a venue right down the street from us, and that was step one. We also found out how hard it is to put on a conference. So we said, instead of finding a different venue, let's just do the same place again because we remember how it worked. We've also had a lot of feedback from you guys, though, of, hey, we love the venue. We love the feel of this conference. It's different. I just went to a big conference toward the East Coast. I don't want to call out their name, but there's thousands of people. There's hundreds of classes. It's hard to walk through there and actually connect with people because they're so varied. We see the value in keeping this smaller, keeping it more intimate, having it be small enough that you could literally meet everybody in the time that you're here. But we do want to continue to get feedback because everyone's telling us, you're going to need to move, you're going to need to grow. But we also have some ideas. Again, nothing solidified. These are ideas. What would the feedback be from the community of, what if we did more than one a year? What if we did some regional conferences and we held one on the East Coast, we held one in the West Coast? What time frames, what if we do them seasonally? The other idea is, what about some specific boot camps? Like, what if we did a 3-day, and these wouldn't just be presentation and discussion, these would be technical, hands-on 3-day boot camps of bringing in all of the laser scanning vendors and bringing in companies that are using laser scanning, and we all sit and talk through and educate on workflows, how to improve registration, when survey is important, and we actually get into the technical. I think a lot of people have expressed the interest in something like that. Those are some ideas that we want feedback on, and I think we'll end up formulating something along those routes. That's a lot of ideas, and it's hard to implement them all. But I'd love, if anybody has questions or wants to give any feedback on anything that I've thrown out there, you're more than welcome to go over to the mic. I'm just excited. I'm excited. We have a big future ahead of us. The industry does. And I hear it all the time, I think we're maybe 15% saturated. When you look at the volume of jobs out there, I've been scanning for 12 years, and I think I've competitively bid on a job maybe 15 times in 12 years. I'm not at all worried about competition. There's so much volume for growth. There's so many companies that aren't using it yet. What I do think we need, though, is to talk about some of those other things How do we confirm accuracies? How do we train people that are getting into it right now to know that they're getting the right tool? And it's not just pushing every tool that exists. We have to somehow collectively create this content to help educate ourselves. I'm creating this selfishly for me as well. I want to know what's the best process to integrate the tools, right? We're users, and right now, until we collectively as an industry build something like this, we're all learning it one-on-one, and we're calling each other sometimes asking questions, but I think I want to pull everybody together through the community, through forums, through educational content, through webinars, through in-person events, in order to really continue to scale the adoption.